Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of the Winter Meetings, your weekly baseball podcast right here on the Pinfall Podcast Network. Thank you for joining us live on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. And for those of you listening after the fact on Spotify and our various other platforms, I do, however, also have confirmation that we should have iHeartRadio going live by the end of the week. And just a quick note for those of you that may have noticed, this last week's episode is not in Spotify. For some reason, didn't record the audio for me to be able to download. So I'm in the process of ripping that from the YouTube video last week, and then I'll post it. So that should be up later on tonight. With me is the brains of the operation, even though sometimes he doesn't know it. Craig, my co-host. It's good to see you this week, buddy.
Good to see you.
And as a heads up, I know we won't see you next week because you are getting visited by your daughter, but we will have my guest, my buddy Dan Warner will be with us next week, filling in so that Craig can spend time with family. And of course, another big announcement, the Sunday after opening day, right here on the Winter Meetings podcast on the Pinfall Network, we're going to have a very special guest with us. Former New York Yankees pitcher and most importantly Red Sox fan Stephen Weaver will be joining us for the show to talk some baseball, and maybe we'll be able to get some stories of what it was like to be in that disgusting Yankees locker room in 1982. But tonight I wanted to start out by talking about how things are going in spring training. I know, of course, it's spring training, the games don't count, but it gives us the ability to see how many of these guys are ready to play baseball in April. These guys that we're going to talk about, some of them may not be starters, probably won't be starters. A couple of them might be. Some of them may be going back down into the minors to get some work done, but just seeing how they're doing in the major league atmosphere against a variety, especially in this spring training where it's a little bit more accelerated. And so you do have guys that are just on the 40-man, not on the 28-man, that are facing major league pitchers, and batters, depending on their position. And so we're getting a really good picture of some of these guys. So I'm going to start it off with one of, I think, Craig, we'll just go back and forth. I'll do one, you do one.
Sure.
I'm talking for too damn much. My first one that I noticed, I picked 3 players in the American League. And Craig did the National League. So we'll kind of dive in here. My first one is Angels third baseman, Jose Rojas. In 2021, and the reason why I picked him is because in 2021, he had a 208 average with 6 home runs and 15 RBIs, 676 OPS. His WAR was negative 0.5. And he played in 61 total games with 168 at-bats. And also in that span got 50 strikeouts and only 15 walks. And that was, like I said, it was across, what was that, like 61 games or something like that. But so far during spring training across 9 games, he's had 12 at-bats. He is hitting 500, 6 hits, including 4 doubles and a home run. So that means 5 of his 6 hits were not a single. And he's only had 2 strikeouts. He has had 5 walks. All of those stats for everybody's information were taken from ESPN. The Angels need some solid bats to be contenders. You can only do so much with Shohei Ohtani. Mike Trout is great, don't get me wrong, but they need to make sure that they have a solid at bats, because they actually have a decent starting rotation and bullpen. But if you're not getting any runs, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I need to find someone that can protect Trout and also Ohtani if possible.
You don't want to have the entire season on the shoulders of 2 men out of your 28-man roster, or 26. No. It goes back down after April or May, whatever they end up doing.
Yeah.
It's just too much. But I like him, especially with the improvement that we're already seeing. Rojas is great on the field, and I think that's why they kept him, and he's still getting a shot, because hitting 208 in the majors is not exactly a good deal. But he's improving. And I think that bodes well for them as they try to get back into a team that can be in playoff contention, because having names like Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani on your roster, you should be at least contending.
Yeah, definitely.
And then who was the first we were going with? It was Ezekiel Tovar, right?
No, I'm going to do Devin. This Giants fan is going to do a Dodger.
Okay.
It kills me, but Devin Mann, second baseman, is just tearing it up. He's got a 5,000 slugging percentage on base. He's got a 4,000 slugging, and his batting average is 1,000. I mean, that's all great for the Dodgers, but unfortunately, second base is pretty much occupied for the season. So I don't think he's going to crack, the 28-man roster. But he may be pretty good trade bait during the season.
I could see that, and I think you're right. He might. I mean, I can at least see him getting, flirting with the 40-man roster across his time in the minors, which is like 3 seasons. He hit 259. Definitely not a bad number to hit. Obviously, you'd like to see that higher, but we also have to remember the difficulty that minor league seasons have faced over the last couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm willing to forgive that. He is a decent defender, but I would be willing to wager he probably spends a little more time in AAA, and we see him more towards the middle of the season, or if they have some issues with injuries. Because especially with that lineup that the Dodgers have, how is anybody else going to get starts unless those guys want a day off? Yeah,
yeah. I agree with you. I think that they'll keep him in AAA, and if an injury comes up, they can bring him up. Otherwise, I think he'd be a pretty good trade bait for if they need a pitcher for postseason, or who knows? They just get richer and richer.
Right, and I think that you're correct on that. Where are his? I was looking at his fielding stats, and I was trying to see if there was anything that made. I mean, he's got a decent field. Yeah, and that's the thing, is his benefit is right now for them is going to be his fielding. So he's one of those where you could almost put him into a position as a fielder and have that DH be for him, especially if it's a day where Shohei's pitching, or Dodgers.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you could use him in different spots, and then also giving guys that need to work on hitting a chance to just sit in the DH spot where all they have to do is take at bats, and then in between those they can go in and take whacks in the batting cages. It's valuable.
Yeah, I agree. I like your thinking on that. Yeah, definitely a 40-man roster.
Yeah, I definitely see him making the 40-man, but I also think that he'll benefit from some time in AAA. But I like him. I like him.
Yeah. Yeah, I do too, unfortunately.
That's the thing about you see, and I almost feel like, because obviously, with my generation, and even with your generation, the Yankees were the bad boys of baseball because they just kept winning.
Yeah.
And that was a dynasty. And if we continue to see consistent results from the Dodgers, especially with how much the Yankees suck, let's just call that what it is. Excuse me. Especially with that, we could see the Dodgers do what the Yankees have done.
Yep. I think the Dodgers are going to run away with it again this year. The Giants will come up second. And barring injuries, the Dodgers should just smoke the West.
It's weird to say. It's weird to say that you can expect a team to get 105 plus wins, but it's also one of those things when you look at that roster where if they have any less than 100 wins, there needs to be a solid reason why. Because unless they just get rocked by injury, there is just too much talent in that lineup for them not to break 105 wins. Like,
Yep.
that's weird to say as a team because it's not something you look at in baseball commonly and look at a team and go, oh yeah, they're going to get a buck 05. What? But the Giants, in that same regard, I know we're going to be talking about that Giants prospect in a minute, but the Giants are another team that when you look at their roster, especially with what they did last year, you expect to see at least 95 wins.
Yeah. Yeah, they're running a nice pitching staff, especially the bullpen. They're running real nicely.
The bullpen is going to be key in the early part of the season because since these guys haven't had as much time to ramp up, that's one of the reasons why they're going with the 28-man roster through April at least. If you haven't seen that was announced, the league and the MLBPA did agree to that. The typical is like 26, 27. I think you can do 27 on a doubleheader game day. So I would expect those to go back down to normal by the end of May. But we'll see injuries. The frequency of injuries is going to have an impact on that, I think.
They're being really careful. I mean, I don't speak for the Giants because I'm following them. Their starting pitchers are not going any further than 45 pitches for a game right now. They're on a hard pitch count.
A lot, and a lot of teams are doing that. Like today in spring training, like DeGrom pitched for the Mets game. DeGrom pitched the first 3 innings.
Yeah, he was
and
awesome.
Then Scherzer came out. And then Scherzer came out, and I think he pitched 2 or 3 more as well today, right after DeGrom. Can you imagine having that to be the follow-up for your evening, stepping up to the plate? Oh, we got DeGrom. Okay, at least we can, just wear him down a little bit, get to the bullpen. The bullpen is Scherzer. Fuck. Like, a collective angry scream had to have been echoed from that dugout today. Okay, so I will go with my next one.
Okay.
My next one, very easy. Bobby Witt Jr. out of Kansas, out of the Royals. This kid has come up in the Royals farm system over the last couple of years. At least last year, maybe not the year before because of everything that was going on. But he spent some time in Arkansas, went to the Storm Chasers as well. And last year in the majors, in the minors, he hit 200. He hit 290 over just shy of 500 at bats, including 33 home runs and 29 stolen bases. And he was in AAA by the middle of the year. I know that for a fact. Because he got called up to AAA in the middle of the year last year, and there was a lot of speculation that he might be one of the September call-ups. But he wasn't. So I was really surprised by that because he was absolutely raking. His OPS for the entire season last year was 936. Like, and now as you look at spring training this year, how he's starting 16 at bats across 6 games. He's scored 4 runs, 7 hits, including 2 doubles and 2 home runs. 4 of his 7 hits were more than a single. And then, and his OPS is 1.313 right now. That's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
I hope the Royals don't trade him. He would be a great face for that franchise because those fans already love him. And he's definitely one of those where if you get a chance, go watch some Bobby Witt footage. Bobby Witt Jr. footage. Because damn, that kid can rake. And he's quick too. That's how you get 30 stolen bases in a year. He's quick too. That's how you get 30 stolen bases in a year. And what team doesn't want to have somebody that can hit 30 plus home runs and get you 30 stolen backs?
Yeah. I was thinking the same thing you're thinking. I hope they don't trade him.
He would, like I said, the Royals fan base already loves that guy. It's like Greinke that the Royals recently resigned. Like when he was coming up, like there was a lot of hype in that area about Zach Greinke and his ability to pitch and his talent on the mound. And so when he ended up getting traded, there was a lot of pissed off Kansas City fans because they wanted to see Greinke stay. And I'm happy for Greinke. I mean, because he would have been great to have in that World Series run in 2014 and 2015 that they went on. And of course he's back and that's great and everybody's happy. But unless Bobby wants to go somewhere else because he's not happy in the organization, I'll clarify that because I'm always a player first guy.
Mm-hmm.
John Sherman should be walking up to him now and be like, look, let's just put you on a 10-year deal now so I don't have to worry about losing you. Just pay the kid.
Yeah.
They've got the money. They've got plenty of room between them and the luxury tax line. Just pay him. Give him money. He's earned it.
I think it would send a great message to the fans that Kansas City ownership is serious about putting a winning team on the field.
Absolutely. And I mean, and you can put contingencies in there, like if something happens, the ass gets set back down to the minors because of performance and stuff like that. I'm not against any of that, especially with a young player. But we've already seen teams grabbing these younger guys to put on longer deals so that they don't have to fight with them and they've got them for the foreseeable future. That's why we saw some of those 10-year deals last year. Yeah. He's probably a year or two away still from earning one of those, but Kansas City should already be thinking about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Realistically.
Yeah, he could be a star for them for, like I said, 10 years.
Easy. I mean, he's only 21, 22 years old. He's still a young kid.
Yeah. And what a great way to sell season tickets,
Yeah. And I will be getting a Bobby Witt jersey because I realize it's really funny. I have to get a Bobby Witt Jr. jersey now because his number is 7. I didn't even know that, and I was advocating for this guy. Now that I know that his number on the field is 7, like that's important to me. I have to support this guy because, like, let's be honest, I could care less about the Royals. Like, I used to live in KC, so a little soft spot for him. But honestly, like, I could care less. But I like Bobby Witt Jr. as a player, and his number is 7, so I'm going to get a jersey. Okay. Okay, and who did you have next?
I have from Colorado Rockies, their shortstop that's just tearing it up, Ezequiel Tovar. He's got 5 runs so far. He's tied for third in runs. He's got 9 hits. He's got 3 home runs, tied for second in total home runs. He's tearing it up.
And that's the Rocky, and that's the thing is the Rockies have made some weird moves as of late because you extend Arenado to trade him. You don't sign Story. He ends up in Boston. And then you pay Chris Bryant.
Yeah.
But
Bryant can move around.
Yeah, and Bryant, and that's the thing, is that is a benefit, is he does have some versatility. So especially as some of these guys do start to develop. I mean, because like Tovar, shortstop, if you want to get him some time in, you can move Bryant wherever you need to, if you need to. Like he did really well last year. He hit 287 across 432 at bats, had 15 home runs, 24 stolen bases, across 124 hits. I mean, for a 20, he's not even 21 yet. He doesn't turn 21 until August. For a 20-year-old kid playing Double-A, he's 6 foot 162. That's the kind of guy you want right there at shortstop. Size-wise, performance-wise, like that's, and it's probably, and he might not even get called up this year. It might be another season, but he's got some potential and he has looked good.
Yeah. One to watch.
Absolutely. And then my last one, of course, being that I did American League, I absolutely had to do a Boston Red Sox player. Fight me if you want. I don't care. Ryan Fitzgerald. And I think he's flying a little under the radar because of the position that he plays. I have a feeling that like he's going to be on the 40-man, but I have a feeling that he's going to end up getting traded because depth-wise, he's a shortstop. You've got arguably two of the best shortstops in the league on your roster. One of them is just going to be playing second this year in Trevor Story.
Yeah.
So, I mean, unless they're going to sit on him to see what happens with Xander before they trade him, I could see him going before the deadline because, like, last year, he hit 270 across 363 at bats, 862 OPS, 16 home runs across 98 hits. This, spring training, 16 at bats so far. He's hitting 313. And 4 of the 5 hits that he had were home runs. Only 3 strikeouts. His OPS is 1.513. That's ridiculous. 1.5. How do the Red Sox have so much depth at shortstop? I don't get it. I love it. I'm a Red Sox fan. I love it. But damn. And I was watching, as I was researching this today, I watched some footage of him. He's another kid. If you get a chance, watch some of his minor league footage.
Mhm.
He's a great, very talented young man. And I would love to see him doing something for Boston. Maybe if that's a position change or in the unfortunate offense that Xander ends up leaving. Story decides he likes second base better than shortstop because you can't do the shift anymore, so he stays over there. Yeah. Or if Xander leaves, you at least keep him as a backup to give Story a day off. Maybe use him as a DH sometimes. Give Martinez a day off because he's getting up there, and they've said he might spend some time in the field this year, and you really don't want JD Martinez in the field. Like, when Boston traded for him, Boston I had at the time was laughing hysterically because I was not happy. Because, like, and I appreciate that he's a great DH. So don't want everybody yell at me. I know he's a great DH. But if you black out the person in some way of the footage in these 2 players that I'm about to name, you would not be able to see very much of a difference. And I'm saying Tim Locastro and JD Martinez on the field. On the field, at the plate is different. JD Martinez has lost his touch on the field. I'm sorry. But Fitzgerald has some uses. I just hope Boston keeps him. But I want him to succeed. And if that means he has to get traded because there's not a need for his talent, I want to see him succeed on a squad that's gonna win, so that he stays motivated and talented. Because as a young kid, that's a huge thing.
What's your gut feeling about Bogaerts? I mean, do you think he's?
It's, you see, and I'm concerned about, because both Bogey and Rafael Devers are basically in contract years. And Rafi's not going to want to negotiate. And Rafi's already said he will not be negotiating his contract during the season. I get that. He doesn't want a distraction. I'm not going to knock that at all. But with both of now with Rafi, they could trade him. Xander can opt out after the season. So that they are slightly different. Bloom is indicating he wants to sign both of them and get them lucrative deals. It's not like they're not used to opening up the checkbook in Boston,
Right.
especially with the fact that we are going to see methodical increases in the line for the competitive balance tax. I think that may give him more incentive now that they've been able to dump some of the payroll from some of the bad decisions that the former GM made before he took over. I think we might see something. They've got a lot of dead cap money falling off over the next few years. So, I mean, I hope so. But I think they'll re-sign Rafi, and Xander is going to end up playing for another team. I hate to say it, but I think Xander Bogaerts is going to end up very similar to Mookie Betts. And he's going to get traded.
Well, that would be too bad.
I don't like it. I love seeing Xander in uniform, and it's a business thing. And the thing of it is it's going to be harder and I understand the business side for Boston. It's a lot harder to justify giving him, we'll say just as an arbitrary example here, I don't know what the actual numbers look like. It's a lot harder to justify giving him $50 million a year when, just like I was saying, not only do you now have Trevor Story, but you've also got an amazing prospect in Ryan Fitzpatrick. Or Fitzgerald, sorry, Ryan Fitzgerald. Yeah, no, we're not talking about Fitzmagic changing sports here. Ryan Fitzgerald. So the leverage is really on Boston's side, I would think that the leverage is going to be more on Boston's side for trying to get his price down, and he's worth whatever he wants. Like I said, he's one of the most talented shortstops in all of baseball. And nobody can deny it. And Story is the other one that would be the top one. So, go ahead.
I was thinking, and guess which team over in the Bronx needs a shortstop?
Don't put that magic on me, Ricky Bobby. Don't put that magic on me, Ricky Bobby. Because and nobody tells Gary Sheffield Jr. about that either, because that dude spends enough time on Twitter advocating for and complaining about the Yankees, because he realizes just as much as the rest of us that their roster looks like a dumpster fire. But the last thing I need is somebody that's actually got clout throwing that idea around, because I swear to God, if that gains traction, I know. I understand. And that's the thing. That's going to be my line. Just like I was super offended that it looked like Tyrann Mathieu might sign with the Raiders, because that's there are clear lines that you don't do. It's not right to sign with your opponent's team. With the team rival. It's disrespectful to the fan base.
Yeah.
But I don't think Boston's really in the business of helping New York get better on their roster.
No.
So I highly doubt I see that happening less. But if just that trickle of a thought is what starts the fire, I am going to be Angry Birds angry. Like, it will happen. Okay. What your third prospect? It's who's it again?
Well, it's not a
Logan
prospect.
Webb.
It's legit Logan Webb.
Oh, third player. Yeah.
Yeah, he's got 10 strikeouts. He's humming along just fine.
I love Logan Webb. And when it comes to pitchers, like, I think he's definitely going to be an anchor for the Giants when it comes to the pitching.
Yep.
His performance is going to have a big impact on things. It's just like Garrett Cole looking like trash. Gave up a home run today to Vanessa Hudgens' boyfriend. Which I love it. There's now a baseball player because you got Russell Wilson as Sierra's husband. Mm-hmm. And now we've got, I can't remember what his name is, but the announcers today, as they called the home run, were calling him Vanessa Hudgens' boyfriend. And so and it was great. And she retweeted the clip. She thought it was funny as hell. But I hope that takes hold. So we've got Ciara's husband and Vanessa Hudgens' boyfriend, both in sports. I think it's great. Man, he's such a good pitcher to watch.
Yeah.
Logan Webb.
At the end of the season last year, he was penciled in to be the starting pitcher for the season. But now you've got Cobb, and right. you've got Rodon, and I still think Webb will get the start for opening day. But you got a great 1-2-3 punch right now. I mean, it's gonna be awesome.
Because of his connection to the fan base and the fact that he's been there, I think Webb is the logical starter for opening day for the Giants for their home opener.
I think so. Yeah.
And because as much as I like Cobb and Rodon, and I think that they are going to do very, very well, Rodon especially. I really liked him last year, and I like how much he's bounced back. Like, I loved watching him on the White Sox last year, despite the fact that I had to deal with looking at Tony La Russa's face. I liked watching him pitch last year. I watched him throw his no-hitter. I thought he's when he gets dialed in, he's a very great pitcher. His attack is fantastic, but he needed to be in a better situation. And that's the hard thing about the White Sox is they're not a very good organization, especially with Tony La Russa as the coach. In case anybody watching hasn't realized yet, I'm vehemently against Tony La Russa as a coach. And I think he's probably also an asshole as a person too. But that's just me. No, but I like, and yeah, the Giants, and that's why I was saying earlier about the wins for the Giants, the fact that they need, expectations should be 95 plus. I know that's an aggressive number, but they've got the bats to do it too. So I don't see any reason why at the end of the season we're not looking at 95 plus wins for them.
Yeah, and that's been a talk on the radio out here too. That's the expectation is 95 or above, and also to get that other spot for the playoffs. So yeah, there's high expectations for the Giants this year.
There should, I mean, there should be.
Yeah.
And the Giants and the Mets are two teams that didn't quite show up near the end of the season like we wanted to. That this year, because of the changes, especially those pitching rotation changes, there are a lot of expectations. And the Mets were aggressive as hell in free agency.
Yeah.
So I can't for the life of me not have those expectations. The Mets need to have at least 85 wins this season. And that's being I'm being forgiving with their expectations. They should have 90 plus realistically.
It's all about their health. All about their health, because they were off to a great start, and then injuries came, and that was it.
And I think that's one of the reasons why the September and October baseball is so much more significant than what we get in April and May, is because some of these guys, you have by the middle of the season, half the teams in the league have lost a starter to Tommy Johns.
Yeah.
And that always has a significant shakeup, because very rarely do you have somebody waiting in the wings that can go from pitching 2 innings 3 times a week to suddenly being able to throw 75 to 80 pitches every 5 days.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's a hard ramp up to be able to achieve, unless they've been getting you ready for it for when it could happen, because they expected the need at some point. But I doubt teams are going to be that forethought, because they want to save the juice in that arm for when it's needed.
Yep.
And so it's going to be interesting to watch. I was looking at some projections today, and there was one site. I can't remember the name of the site, so I will openly say that. But they actually put Boston as 4th in the AL East and only projecting 86 wins. Yankees were 2nd behind the Blue Jays. I don't have a problem with the Blue Jays being projected with winning the division this year. I will not be surprised if that happens.
Me either.
Especially with Vlad coming back.
But the Yankees being up that high? No way.
The 92 wins. Somebody needs to look at that roster and tell me how in the hell the Yankees are going to get 92 wins this year, unless they have another big change coming. I can't see it.
No, I don't either. No.
That's why I have to look at those projections like that, and just like I get a quick look and then I look away, because if I keep looking at them and brooding on them for too long, I'm going to turn into that angry customer that starts to leave and then come, I had another thing, and I won't stop. I will, because no, Just no. Yeah, I don't know. Okay. And then so we got three prospects. Okay. All right. So we're gonna take a quick break because I need to take a very long drink and try to blow my nose. But when we come back, we're gonna talk about some more spring training results and maybe a couple of other things as well, depending on time. So stick with us. We appreciate you joining us here on your Sunday night. Oscars are today, I believe, as well. So you're welcome because there is zero politics on this show. I don't have the patience, and since Ricky Gervais isn't doing the opening of the Oscars, which if you haven't seen his opening, the video for his opening of the Golden Globes,
epic.
Go watch it. I was laughing so hard I was crying the first time I watched that video. But okay, we're going to take a quick breather, and when we come back, we will talk more spring training results. So please stick with us right here at the Winter Meetings Podcast on the Pinfall Podcast Network.
Up like we do. No one does us like we do. Always go hard with this crew. Welcome to the show, let's make moves. Nothing's gonna stop us, it's time to get rough. Turn the whole room up, it's never enough. Let's go, 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 let's go.
Welcome back. Thank you for sticking with us, everybody. You are watching the Winter Meetings Baseball Podcast right here on the Pinfall Podcast Network. A big thank you to our sponsors, Raise Energy at repsports.com. You can use the code PINFALL or GGN10 for 15% off of their website. Raise Energy is actually pretty good, zero sugar, and some good flavors. I've had a couple of them before. And then Gamerware, thank you as well for sponsoring the Pinfall Network. You can use the code XXP for 10% off on their website for all of your esports wear needs. That first ad was for the Geek Gauntlet podcast, which runs Sunday nights at 10 p.m. Eastern on the William Morgan Media Twitch page. That is hosted by Will and Shaw as they dive into all things geek-related culture. Definitely check them out. And then I'm going to go through the third ad, then the second, and it'll make sense in a minute. I just couldn't get to click on it in time. The third ad was for the Sports Report, which is the sports-based podcast. It runs Monday nights at 10 p.m. Eastern, right here on the Pinfall Podcast Network. That is hosted by Will and also features myself, along with Dan the Dick Warner, who will be my co-host here on the Winter Meetings Podcast next week. Tony C. and me, and sometimes Josie peeks in as well, just talking all things sports related. We spend a lot of time, baseball, NBA, football, stuff like that, but we also touch on other stuff as well. That's 10 p.m. Eastern, Monday nights on the Pinfall Podcast Network through our various spots on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. And then after that, at 11:30 Eastern, is the show that is done in ours. That second ad, Sports Report After Dark. That is me and Dan the Dick Warner going into human issues as they impact not just the sports world, but also us as a society. we definitely talk about the fact that sports is a microcosm of society and the human side of being a professional athlete that we dive into on a weekly basis. So definitely join us and check that out. That starts usually we get going at about 11:30 p.m. Eastern. So, when we talk about spring training, of course, for all of the humdrummers that are going to make sure that we remember 100 times out of 100, spring training games don't count. We are aware. But there have been games, and you get to see, especially with this accelerated spring training, you get a view. You get a view of what's going to be, of how teams are looking in the in the spring, and how they're going to look at the earlier part of the year. When we look at trying to get this up in front of me, and all of my information is coming from ESPN.com or MLB.com. If it's wrong, it's their fault, not mine. In the Cactus League, our top two teams are the Texas Rangers and the Kansas City Royals at 6-2 and 5-3 respectively. When it comes to the Rangers and their results, are you seeing anything from them where you think like this might carry on long term?
The Rangers, yes, it's gonna be a good team. They've been a good team. So no surprises there. What was their team again? I'm sorry.
Yeah, the Royals. The
Royals.
And I was going to say, like, they've made a couple of small changes, especially when it comes to the pitching side. They signed Amir Garrett. And they also brought Greinke back, signed him on a 1-year deal. And then they've had a decent hitting lineup. Pitching was their weakness last year.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to win their division. I'm realistic with the Royals. I don't think they're going to win their division, but I definitely have them contending for a wild card slot.
It sure doesn't hurt having Greinke back, that's for sure.
I think Greinke's not just great on the mound. Like, his presence in a locker room is understated.
Yeah.
Because he's the type of guy that just talks to you. With the issues that he has, if he gets talking to you, like, he has excellent recall. Like, he was, when he got back into Kansas City, he was talking to some of the batters that he faced, and he was recalling when they got hits on him, when they got, if they got a home run on him, what the pitch was, what the count was. He's just a great guy to talk and have in the locker room. And then you get the instances where he's on the mound and calling out pitches, or sits there and watches the grounds crew work when they're trying to fix the mound because of something between innings. Like, that's just, he's the type of guy that you like having in the clubhouse. That's for sure.
Yeah, he's going to be great for the young kids on that staff. Great.
And he said that Houston was a horrible city to live in, and that he moved his family to Arizona as a result of that. You need those kind of lessons, I think, in your clubhouse for the young guys. And kind of just looking down the list here. Now on the other side in the Grapefruit League down in Florida, Braves are your top team at Braves are your top team at 5-2, and Boston is currently 7-4. How many? So let me ask you this: when it comes to the Braves, obviously you've seen the changes that they've made. We are now without Freeman in in Atlanta, but they did grab an okay first baseman. So, do you think that Atlanta is in the position to try and run it back?
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it wasn't just, the Atlanta Freemans. It was a whole team that had great skills, great pitching, and leadership all around. So I don't think they're going to be wanting very much at all. I think they're going to be a very good team.
And the reason I'm concerned about the Braves is there was a couple of pieces, or one piece that was instrumental to them in their run last year, especially that surge and after the trade deadline, was Jorge Soler. And Royals fans will remember how important he was in 2015. That guy hits the ball and wins ball games. Like, that's just what he does. That's all he knows. I have a lot of respect for Soler and what he does, even if he doesn't spend a lot of time on teams. He wins games. Like, that's just plain and simple. But they did lose a couple of pieces that were instrumental on that run. And so I think that they'll win their division, because I mean that's almost a consistent thing you can bet on anyway for them, is that they're going to win their division.
Yeah.
But I'm really not sure that they're going to fare as well in October as they did last year. I'll have to see how they play. I think that's going to be the thing for me as I look at them, is seeing how they play, and any other moves that they might make. Because with some of these changes with the new collective bargaining agreement, we may not see as many big trades at the deadline as we have in years past.
Yeah, that's
so
a good point.
I mean, except for the A's realizing they have good players they might have to pay, some of those might get traded. They're not going to do anything to get anything back except for picks. They just want to save money. But we won't talk about the A's, who like to raise prices on their season ticket holders, take away ticket holder benefits, not sign anybody in free agency, and then wonder why everybody's pissed. We're not talking about the A's.
Debbie's staying up right now and cheering you right now. She listens to this.
The A's and the Orioles.
She's so pissed. She's so pissed.
I don't blame her. And
Yeah.
I feel bad for Orioles fans too. Because the Orioles are in one of the highest one of the most competitive divisions of baseball is the American League East. Like, and not just because of month or year-to-year roster adjustments, but because when you look at the Yankees, the Rays, the Red Sox, and the Blue Jays, they are really competitive teams on a relatively consistent basis.
Yep.
And then you have the Orioles. Okay. They are projected right now to have a $31 million payroll this year. Carlos Correa's deal is going to pay him an average annual value of $35.1 million. That means Carlos Correa is making more than the entire Orioles roster.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure, I think the A's were the second lowest. It was only like 2 or 3 million more. So he may be making more than theirs as well.
Yeah.
That is absurd.
It is.
Those teams' fans deserve better.
Yep.
There were some numbers released, and this really ticked. And this is one of the things that made me more angry at the ownership of these low-end teams. The teams in the smallest markets that got the lowest amount of money from TV deals last year was $61 million. You're telling me, as an organization, your TV deals alone come in at double your player payroll.
It's criminal, so to speak. I mean, it's terrible.
Even those small market teams, when you look at $60 million in TV revenue to start, I would be surprised if there is an MLB team, even those smaller markets, that's bringing in less than $100 million a year in revenue. There's no way. There's absolutely no way. That's because that's just local TV deals. That doesn't factor in any of the national games. Any of the national games. No merch, none of the advertising that they get at the stadium or to be associated with around the stadium, the profit sharing that they get from the league as a small market team. There's no way. And the fans of these teams deserve so much sorry, had to take a second. So much freaking better than what these owners are providing. And because here's the thing. And I think this is one of the things, and those teams actually hurt the bottom line of baseball and baseball's image. Because they are in markets that are basically untapped with how underutilized these teams are and underperforming they are. And a whole lot of potential revenue for the organization if they would just invest.
Yep.
And if you bring in a bigger fan base to those markets, that boosts the bottom line of baseball in general. Because yes, you want to try and see if you're at, when you're at the top, you want to try and see if you can make more. But the other way that you bring that amount up is by pulling up what you're getting at the bottom too. You can't just keep trying to push up. You got to pull some stuff up from the bottom, because that's another way to make this go up on its own.
You've talked about before about a basement level
salary
basement,
floor.
Salary, that has got to be addressed going in the future. It just has to.
Part of me wonders if the reason why the owners distracted with the international draft and in the late night part of the discussions, they started adding that in there, wasn't to distract them from the salary floor, because there was talks early on in the negotiations, once the league finally started throwing offers at, that the players wanted a salary floor.
Mm-hmm.
It would not surprise me in the least if what held everything up was because they were trying to get the salary floor off the table before they would agree to anything. Because there's no way you can convince me the owners didn't know things were going to change.
Yeah.
You can't tell me that. They didn't know that the days of completely fleecing the players on every deal are done. These guys are too connected and too informed to allow that to happen anymore. So instead, they want to focus on the things that are going to be the most detrimental to what they want to do. They don't want to have a salary floor.
Yeah.
And the reason why they don't do it very much, there's not a salary cap, is because they don't care if the owners that want to spend money do. That's why there was a new level added to the fine or the luxury tax levels that has basically been dubbed the Steve Cohen tax, because he ran right past that line like he was sneaking back in from a long night at Tijuana and couldn't find his identification. He was just he didn't care. Zero fucks given. So and that's the thing. The issue is the spectrum. I give less fucks about the top of the spectrum as I do the bottom, because guess what? The top of the spectrum still does. The top of the spectrum does not impact ticket prices any more than the bottom of the spectrum does. Let's all be honest. It's all what's good in the market. An entire season where go ahead. Sorry.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say the entire season where they didn't have any fans at the stands, they still made a bunch of money. They were still a profitable seat. In fact, they probably had more profits in a percentage-wise, because you didn't have to deal with as much maintenance on the stadiums, paying the stadium workers, all of the losses on concessions and stuff like that. I wouldn't be surprised if the profit margin was actually a little wider without the fans in the stands.
Yeah. And the top does not address how much money the owners are required to pay, to budget for. So you can say, okay, fine, the budget this year is going to be $600 million for a team. Doesn't mean they have to spend $600 million. They don't have to spend that if they don't want to.
No.
But with the floor says this is what it's going. This is the least amount you cheating little bastards can get away with in funding a team.
And there is, and some can argue that there is technically a salary floor with the fact that they have a salary minimum. That they did actually increase by about 130 grand with the new CBA, and it's actually got incremental levels that it goes up over the next 5 years as well. But the problem is these teams like the Orioles, like the A's, like the Guardians, because theirs is in the bottom 5 of payroll too.
Mm-hmm.
You spend a whole bunch of money on changing your name when you could have just changed the damn mascot, like everybody said multiple fucking times.
Yeah.
It wasn't the Indian's name. It was the caricature Indian that you used as your stupid mascot. But no, let's spend $100 million completely rebranding. Anyway, sorry. Had to pull it back there for a minute. These teams are giving as many players as they can that minimum salary.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. That's like, look, McDonald's is only going to pay minimum wage because they have to. If you lowered minimum wage, they'd lower the payment and your burger would still be $8.
Yep.
And it makes the organization, it makes baseball as a whole look bad.
Oh, yeah. And the fans aren't stupid. I mean, it's too bad the advertisers are stupid, because if the advertisers, the only way the owners are going to pay attention is if advertising dries up, goes away. That will get their attention, and nothing else. The fans can march around and they can hold a silent protest and not show up. It doesn't mean anything to the owners. That won't get their attention. But you get the advertising, like you get Budweiser and Michelob
I just saw Budweiser pulled their sponsorship from a team recently, and I'm thinking it might be the A's.
It wouldn't surprise me.
And I wouldn't blame them.
Yeah.
Not at all.
I'll ask Debbie because Debbie will know.
It was, and that's the thing is I know it was somebody. So it could have been a football team like ADHD brain. It was Budweiser cutting sponsorship, some fucking sport. So yeah. I could be wrong, but I do think it was the A's. Hold on here. I'm going to look because this is going to bug me until I remember. But the news articles. Come on.
But that's the way you're gonna get the attention of the owners, is advertising gets pulled.
And like we said, there is just like we said, the ticket sales is not the ticket sales is not going, it is not as big of a thing for revenue. It was revenue, yeah, and it was the Washington football team, now the Washington Commanders, that they pulled their sponsorship from. So I was wrong, but I would not blame them for no longer sponsoring the A's if they do. But ticket sales don't have as much of a revenue impact as people
No.
think they do.
No, they
It's
don't.
advertising. It's advertising and TV deals. 100%.
Yep. And now the deals with legalized gambling. I mean, they got money, falling from the sky. Just hand over fist.
Mm-hmm. And the sports betting is only going to get legal because it will eventually be legal in all 50 states.
Oh yeah.
Just like medical cannabis, at least recreational, probably, but we'll say at least medical cannabis just to be, super realistic. Cause Kansas is kind of stupid, but it's sports betting will be legal in all 50 states.
Yep.
So,
and that's
all of that
money the players will never see. That money goes strictly to the owners, to Major League Baseball. Players, sorry, you're not getting nothing.
And I can get to a point. There are some things where it's just like, the players won't see it because that's not them. That's the organization that's actually putting on the performance that the people are betting on. I can see all of the excuses the owners are going to come up with. But one of the things that I do like is the players themselves do actually get money off of the video games. Like MLB The Show is getting ready to drop. The MLBPA gets a bunch of money to the players because of that game.
Yeah.
The mobile game that we play, MLB 9 Innings, the players get paid for that. Tap Sports Baseball is the same way. I've never played it, but I did some research because I considered it because some of those ads look interesting. But I play too many games as it is.
I played it and I moved on to MLB. I'm much happier with
the
developers out there at MLB. Great job.
No, honestly, the best mobile game I've ever played.
Absolutely.
And
go out there, download it. You'll love it.
It's no, and that's a legitimate thing. Like they're not even paying us. Like I wish they would, because like there's some shit that I would let them pay me.
Yeah, me too. Get some more Prime cards on the side.
Just give me a couple of like Team Select Sig packs. Maybe a
give me the mantle. I'll take the mantle.
I know that's the thing is I just saw Mickey Mantle and Babe Ruth. Like they're getting 2 new Yankees legends.
And Cy Young.
Yeah.
And Lou Brock.
I like the Cy Young one.
Exciting. I can't wait. I cannot
being
wait.
able to play with those guys and they, and what's cool about this game is like with these different players, they try to actually have their batting stance or close to in it. You know, when it comes to the pitching, the way that pitcher throws the slider is they try to, it's not always accurate, but they try to get it close to how that pitcher's slider looks in real life. Like the mapping that they do for it is very well done for a mobile game, and it is free to play. You can spend money, and don't get me wrong, there's definitely a pay to win aspect to it, but you really have to spend a lot of money to pay to win. And at that point, like, I'm not even going to fight you. Like, if you want to spend $5,000 on a deck, go right ahead. You do you, boo boo. But no, it's a great game.
Yeah, Mike Gaylord Perry throws a great spitball. He was a great spitter.
I think I had him for a minute. And no, it wasn't Gaylord Perry. It was somebody else who had a knuckle that was just stupid.
Huff?
But all right. So we're getting towards the end of our fair little journey here. Before we wrap things up, was there anything else that you were thinking of you want to talk about this week, buddy?
We're just 1 week closer to opening day. Can't wait.
1 week closer to opening day. Remember, everybody, next week, Craig will be spending time with family, as I always encourage. And I will have my buddy Dan the Dick Warner with me next week as we talk baseball. And then the following week, Stephon Weaver.
You guys are in for a treat. Stefan, I'm proud to say, is a friend of mine, and he's a treat.
Just in the messages with him on Facebook, like I'm legitimately excited to get to talk with this guy, because he's the one person that I can ask if the Yankees jersey burned his skin, and he's not going to be offended by that question. And he'll get it because he grew up in the Boston area.
Yeah.
So that's going to be the first question I ask him. Like, I have to know if it burns. Like, did he have to make sure he wore like long sleeve shirts underneath it so it didn't eat his skin and steal his soul? I'm curious. I'm curious.
He's gonna be great.
Oh, that week I also with him here. We should talk about the Yankees rule of having no beards. What do you think about that?
Oh yeah, yeah.
I that's a good topic that we'll hit on. But okay. It was a pleasure to have you tonight. I know I won't see you next week, but I'll see you the following week when we have Stefan here. And for those of you watching at home or at a Starbucks to steal their Wi-Fi, whatever, and listening after the fact on Spotify and various sources and platforms, which will hopefully include iHeartRadio by the end of the week, I thank you for tuning in with us and giving us your time.
Yes, thank you.
We'll see you next week right here on the Winter Meetings. Have a good night.